Hi everybody, my name is Mark Jungwirth with We Are Change Oshkosh, Wisconsin chapter. I also write for a magazine called QW Magazine. It's an online publication you can find at qwmagazine.co.uk. I'm an activist and journalist. If you're watching this on our YouTube, you probably know who We Are Change is already. But this is going to be my first webcast. I'll be basically doing the news, doing commentary on the news. And today, actually, on my first webcast, I have a big announcement to make. In a way, I'm happy about it. In a way, I'm really not happy about it. But stay tuned, and at the end of the webcast, I will have a big announcement for everybody out there. And without further ado, let's get into the news. Alright, well, in an issue of QW Magazine that was published some months back, I wrote an article called "The Fort Hood Fiasco Is Indel Malik Hassan a Patsy." You can see that. That is the headline of the article. And the last thing that I said in that article was, I encourage you to search multiple news sources and follow up on this story. If you think this is the end of controversy in this case, you are unfortunately sadly mistaken. That was my closing statement of the article, "The Fort Hood Fiasco Regarding Indel Malik Hassan." And now we have this headline from Reuters: "Senators threaten subpoena over Fort Hood attack." You can check that out. And article goes as follows. Two U.S. senators vowed on Thursday to subpoena the Obama administration next week unless it produces information sought in a congressional probe of last year's shooting rampage at a military base in Texas. Homeland Security Committee Chairman Joe Lieberman, an independent, and Susan Collins, the panel's top Republican, said the Departments of Justice and Defense have until Monday to provide information or face legal action. "We do not likely reach this decision," Lieberman told a news conference. Collins said they had no choice. "We have been stymied," she said. Lieberman and Collins have been trying for months to obtain specific information about the shooting spree at Fort Hood in November that ended with the death of 13 soldiers and 31 wounded. An Army psychiatrist, Major Indel Malik Hassan, has been charged. The case drew heavy criticism after it became known Hassan had been in contact with a Muslim figure sympathetic to Al-Qaeda. We'll get more into that later. The senators said their committee wants access to documents and witnesses regarding what the FBI and Defense Department knew about Hassan prior to the shootings. They rejected administration claims that the information could compromise the pending prosecution of Hassan. So basically, the committee's trying to get information out of the FBI. They want access to documents and witnesses regarding what the FBI and Defense Department knew about Hassan prior to the shootings, and the administration is claiming basically that it would jeopardize the prosecution of Hassan if they were to release this information, and the committee is saying nonsense, it will not jeopardize prosecution. Lieberman and Collins said the Defense Department and the FBI have turned over some documents to the committee, but it primarily involved background material. The subpoena could be an unwanted distraction for a White House which is already under pressure to cut unemployment, pass climate change legislation, and regulate the financial industry. Lieberman said his committee wants to put to rest the still unanswered questions of why Major Hassan was not stopped before turning on his fellow Americans. Reviews ordered by the Pentagon and White House have exposed shortcomings in both intelligence and oversight. Alright, there are multiple things happening here with this story. Number one, they're trying to get information and they're being stonewalled. That's no surprise. We've been seeing this has been going on for years and years and years. Look, try looking into the Kennedy assassination. Try looking into the Oklahoma City bombing. Try looking into any of these topics. Try looking into the death of Martin Luther King Jr. Always they're putting out this false information or just plain stonewalling investigations. Look at 9/11, for God's sake. We all know how badly they've been stonewalling us on that for years and years now. Aside from stonewalling us, there are other things going on here. What else do we have? Lieberman said the committee wants to put to rest the still unanswered questions of why Major Hassan was not stopped before turning on his fellow Americans. So this is something that I covered, I believe. There's basically a stand down. Why was he not stopped before turning on his fellow Americans? You see this as well with the Christmas bomber. The Christmas bomber was aided onto the plane. Aside from being aided onto the plane, there are numerous red flags that popped up. His father, as a matter of fact, called the CIA and had a meeting with members of the CIA and met with them in person, told them that he believed his son to be a possible terrorist and that his son was going to carry out an attack, and yet nothing was done. He was let on the plane, accompanied by a sharp-dressed man, which is very curious, and led down a hallway basically to talk to a manager due to not having a passport. So he boarded without a passport, was led on by officials, and weeks earlier his father contacted the CIA, said, yes, I believe my son is going to carry out a terrorist attack. Guy boards the plane anyways, doesn't succeed in the attack. And what else do we have here? We have Intel. This is a crazy headline. Intel wants brain implants in its customers' heads by 2020. Check this out. This is out of Popular Science. If the idea of turning consumers into cyborgs sounds too creepy, don't tell Intel researchers. Intel's Pittsburgh lab aims to develop brain implants that can control all sorts of gadgets directly via brainwaves by 2020. The scientists anticipate that consumers will adapt quickly to the idea and indeed crave the freedom of not requiring a keyboard, mouse, or remote control for surfing the web or changing channels. They also predict that people will tire of multi-touch devices such as our precious iPhones, Android, smartphones, and even Microsoft's wacky Surface table. So here they're trying to sell it to you under the guise of freedom. You can have the freedom of not having a keyboard. You can have the freedom of not having a mouse. Oh, you'll be able to control things with your mind. It'll be so great. But you won't have the freedom to think for yourself. Get out of here. Turning brainwaves into real-world tech actions still requires some heavy decoding of brain activity. The Intel team has already made use of MRI brain scans to match brain patterns with similar thoughts across many test subjects. Plenty of other researchers have also tinkered with the idea. Toyota recently demoed a wheelchair controlled with brainwaves, and University of Utah researchers have created a wireless brain transmitter that allows monkeys to control robotic arms. So now we have monkeys controlling robotic arms with their mind. We can do this, but they don't tell you about the natural ways to keep cancer out of your system. Oh no, oh no. And that's crazy. Again, I can't talk about that enough. They try to sell it to you under the guise of freedom. I just want to read that sentence again. Where did that? The scientists anticipate that consumers will adapt quickly to the idea and indeed crave the freedom of not requiring a keyboard, mouse, or remote control for surfing the web. Yeah, because having something implanted into your brain far beats the idea of having to use a remote control. Yeah. Put a chip in my head. Do that. I far prefer that to using a hand-required device. Next, this headline.